Ben Johnson to Carolina stuff, and I just want to shut this down. I do. Because, and I don't even know Ben, but I'm going to speak on his behalf like I know Ben. And this is why it's frustrating to me. Because who in their right mind would want this job? Like, seriously. I'm listening. I'm open to discussion with this. Who in their right mind would want this job? David Tepper, one of the most impatient, arguably one of the worst owners in the National Football League. It's going to have to be somebody with no options. You got Greg Olson. You got Greg Olson out here saying, if I was offered, I'd take the job. Well, yeah, you would, Greg Olson, because you have no options.
Sam Laporta.
That would be why Greg Olson takes that job. This ain't it. This job ain't it for any up-and-coming coordinator or former head coach with options. You're going to have to convince somebody to relocate their family, like Deuce Staley did, and got fired. Relocate their family, potentially children, enroll them in a new school, to not even know if you're going to last 11 games. That's where you're at with the Carolina Panthers. A bag is a bag, don't get me wrong. Hey, I'm all for people getting bags. But really, is it that worth it? Because you still get paid. So, I can't complain about the money. But still, it's stupidity to take this job. No first-round pick this year. Lack of talent, impatient ownership issues, GM issues, because he signed Miles Sanders to one of the worst running back contracts in the league, and a young quarterback with no confidence. No confidence. So whoever's hired, you're going to have to fix it all. Fix it all. And if you can't, you get fired. You just saw that on display with Frank Reich. He was probably promised patience and was fired through 11 games, even with a quarterback that he didn't even want. And I'm not saying like Bryce is some trash quarterback, because a lot of people would have taken him number 1 overall, but he was clear that Frank Reich wanted C.J. Stroud. Very clear. He didn't get him. Well, see you later, Frank Reich, through 11 games. You think about the jobs that are going to be open this year. Chargers, Bills, I think, Bears, Saints, because I think the Saints will get a new head coach, and potentially more. I think Adam Schefter said it could go up to 7 jobs available this offseason. 6, 7, whatever the number is. You're going to choose Carolina, especially if you're a coordinator that has options. I believe Ben Johnson will stay in Detroit unless there is a job that he absolutely loves and it opens up. Because that's the benefit when you're good at any line of work. If you're good at what you do, you have options. And that's the benefit for a guy like Ben Johnson. He has options. He has leverage. And he can dictate where he wants to go. He interviewed for a couple of jobs last year. He can sit it out. He can come back to Detroit for another year. And this offense will be just fine. Will they be number 1 in the National Football League? Doesn't matter. They could be top 5. He'll still have job openings. He's one of the hottest names in the NFL. So for people that are worried about him leaving for Carolina, I think it's a no-go. I think Ben knows that too, because he already interviewed for the job. So he might already got a feel for the Carolina Panthers. There's no way in hell Ben's going to relocate his family and his children to go to a dysfunctional organization that has no promise for him to even keep his job through 1 year. It's just not happening.
The Carolina Panthers right now are an absolute cesspool, a dumpster fire, and even despite having a rookie number 1 overall pick quarterback, they are as hopeless of a situation as there is in the NFL right now. And if you want to go coach them right now, be my guest. I mean, you saw what happened to Frank Reich. You saw what happened to other members of the coaching staff, including Deuce Staley.
McCown and Deuce Staley.
I know,
cleared out every type of offensive mind in there.
After 11 games, and here's the other reality right now, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is true. I'm almost already convinced that Bryce Young is ruined, that he was never really that good of an NFL prospect to begin with. And I know it's easy to say now because I'm somebody who was very high on him in college, but what does Bryce Young really do at a dynamic rate? You look at him out there, he's way too small. He's not as mobile as you'd ideally like to be, being that size. He doesn't have a particularly strong arm. I mean, he has an arm, but it was more about, Bryce Young, he plays the quarterback position like a point guard. He gets his weapons involved and they make plays. And it's like, so you take a 5'9" guy who's kind of like your point guard QB and as the number 1 overall pick. I don't like that, because the reality is C.J. Stroud has obviously shown a ton more than Bryce Young. C.J. Stroud is the rookie of the year. Anthony Richardson when he was healthy. The only question about him, I think, is maybe throwing the football accurately when he comes back. But even
he had a couple throws where like, whew.
Yes, and obviously his health. But he showed some promise. He showed some promise both as a passer and as a dynamic runner. Like, he showed me that he could even be maybe a Cam Newton style runner, although he needs to avoid taking hits because it already cost him his rookie year. Will Levis has shown a lot more than Bryce Young to me. He had that 4-touchdown game in his debut, and when you saw them on the same field as each other in the last game, Will Levis is bigger. He's got a better arm. Obviously, the Titans have a little bit better of a supporting cast than the Panthers, but still, to me, Will Levis looks better. And you know what's even more indicting? The Carolina Panthers, they traded away their best weapon, DJ Moore, so that they could have the ability to draft Bryce Young at number 1 overall. So they don't even have a first-round pick to be hopeful of. And by the way, the reason why I mentioned the Bears, and a lot of people might find this crazy, but I don't care because it's reality, Tyson Bagent has shown more to me as a rookie than Bryce Young.
Okay.
Undrafted Tyson Bagent.
I can't.
Has shown me more. Come on.
You took it there. Now we're going to Bryce Young. I think that's unfair to say that you're already out on Bryce through 60% of a season.
All right.
Because you talk about Tyson Bagent. Name me his weapons.
I mean, DJ Moore,
Cole Kmet,
Darnell Mooney. But to be fair,
no, but hold on. You contradicted
Adam Thielen. He's pretty good.
You contradicted your own point because you said earlier he'd be a point guard, getting his weapons involved. Yeah, weapons like Jonathan Mingo, Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, who's fine, but
Ian
he's not.
Thomas, don't forget about him now.
Yeah, right.
Tommy Tremble,
but that's my problem with the whole firing Frank Reich is with Bryce Young, like the dude. Miles Sanders, he doesn't have Derrick Henry or DeAndre Hopkins. I'll tell you that.
I understand.
With Will Levis, so I don't want to say he's some bum. I mean, I liked Bryce before the draft. I still like him. I don't want to go there yet. I get what you're saying, but I'm not going to go there yet. C.J. Stroud has been incredible. I don't want to take anything away from him. He's got weapons, but even then, he's played really well. So I'm not even trying to discount what he's done. But yeah, I'm still going to give Bryce Young some time. Get him an actual head coach and a supporting cast, then we'll see. Then I'll figure it out.
And that's fine. I'm just saying that when you're a number 1 overall pick,
Lawrence.
It's the same issue that I have with like Baker Mayfield ever being a number 1 overall pick. They are not number 1 overall pick talents. They are guys who are accurate, guys who are point guard type quarterbacks, not guys who have any really dynamic skill set. And by the way, they're both small, and Bryce Young is even significantly smaller than Baker Mayfield. I know that Spencer Raxter from Big D Energy and the Woodward Heavyweights always jokes that Bryce Young is 5'2". He's probably not that far off because Bryce Young looks like a baby out there. And I'm not trying to be a dick. It's just when you don't do anything well, when you're not that mobile, when you don't have the weapons around you, you are going to look terrible. And right now, I don't see a pathway for the Carolina Panthers situation improving. That has a lot to do with it, by the way. Yeah. Just to be clear, the Carolina Panthers, they don't even have a first-round pick.
That's
insane.
That's why I think that whoever the head coach is, there's a GM issue. Like, yes. Look at what he's drafted. And that's why the whole thing, it's kind of like when I looked at Trevor Lawrence with Urban Meyer. I was like, that's a terrible situation. Give it time. And he looked awful his rookie year. But now he looks fine. So he got Doug Peterson, though. Like a head coach who's won a Super Bowl. He's coached quarterbacks that have done pretty well in this league. So I'm willing to give it time. Where are you at, Broder, with the whole Ben Johnson stuff of him departing?
Yeah, he's not going to Carolina. Okay. And I don't want to rule out the ability or the chance that he comes back to Detroit. That's still not out of the question, but I think there'll be enough jobs open this offseason where he'll find a place that fits him right. He's got to look for the situation has to be right, and he being at the top, being likely the top choice of teams around the NFL, he'll have his choice of where to go. It's hard to look past that Bears situation. I would hate to see him stay in the NFC North, but if you're going into a situation where you can sort of rebuild, and again, this is if Eberflus is fired, which hasn't happened yet, you get 2 top 5 picks, definitely top 10. You have a chance to get whichever quarterback you want, possibly pair him with Marvin Harrison, DJ Moore. You still got weapons on this team. They're a budding defense. I don't know. There'll be some options for him.
If I'm Ben Johnson, it's hard to not to look at 2 jobs that I think would be perfect for him. The Chargers job, which Kellen Moore, we'll see. I think they should fire Staley and just let Kellen Moore coach the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Figure out if he's good or not.
Yeah.
The Chargers job, but we'll see what happens with that. The other job, the Bills.
Yeah.
Like that job, how do you not take that job if you're Ben Johnson?
One thing missing is the offensive mind.
Exactly. And you saw what he looked like, Josh Allen looked like with Brian Dable. I just think if you're Ben, and you might be right, he might want to go coach and might be open to coaching not only in the NFC North, but coaching a young rookie quarterback. I just think it fits well with what Ben does. He gets to go with a guy who's been in the league for a while. He's already like Jared Goff, for example, has already been in the league, and he could just fix some of those issues. But we'll see. If I'm Ben, man, you got options. I think the Bills are going to fire their head coach. Chargers will fire their head coach. Like, there'll be better jobs in Carolina. It's an awful job. So all that to say he ain't going nowhere. Lucas, you with me on this?
Listen,
he ain't going to Carolina.
No, and I'm with you. I think Ben Johnson's only really been an offensive coordinator in the NFL for a season and a half at this point. And at the end of this season, he won't even be an offensive coordinator for 2 years. So it's not outlandish to think that Ben Johnson might not be ready. Like, he might himself not think that he's ready to be a head coach. And if he sees that, all right, maybe I see how this defense is doing in Detroit right now, and if we're still not winning games and I'm having this offense at this level, maybe I need to wait a little bit more. Maybe I need some more time. Maybe I still need to learn. At the end of the day, that's fine, because there will probably be better opportunities that open up in this season or two. Because right now, the coaching opportunities, like to your point, Los Angeles, New England, Chicago, Carolina, I'm sure there'll be a couple more that open up. I could see maybe Tennessee possibly, but I don't think they'll move off of Vrabel just yet. Maybe Tampa. But Tampa would be a good place for him. But yeah. I just don't know. I just don't think the timing is right now for Ben Johnson to leave. I personally think that Ben Johnson's going to stay another year.
Wow.
I don't think you're off base with that, because he's got leverage, he got options, he could stay, come back another year.
The man's like 35 years old, and I understand that's the desirable thing in the NFL right now. But when you have a guy like Ben Johnson who's having success, who's building up a resume, what is it really going to hurt him to stay another year as well? It's only going to make him look better, because they're going to keep most of the pieces around him, and they're just going to add more talent on offense through the offseason and the draft.
Yeah, I don't see this offense significantly regressing. Because that's always the thing with certain OCs. It's like, you better take your job now, because if your offense looks top 15 next year, the same opportunities might not be there. I think, Ben, that this offense will always be a top 5 offense. I think it'll just
naturally get better. There's a lot of young players on this team that's going to organically get better together.
What about you, JB? The whole Ben Johnson stuff, where are you at?
I honestly don't think he's leaving. I think he still has unfinished business here, that if the Lions don't pull it out this season, then he wants to come back and make sure that he does get the job done. I know from last night on Woodward Nights, Booner was talking about there's going to be at least 10 jobs open right now, and I can honestly see that. Hell, the entire NFC South right now, you can just pick and choose at that right there. As Lucas said, Tampa looks enticing. Chargers, maybe, but unless there's actually a...
What are you doing like that?
Unless there's actually a dream job that opens up for him, then I don't see him, taking off and leaving. Buffalo, maybe, but like I said, I just think he has unfinished business here. As Lucas said, with the young talent that's going to grow together, it's a lot to promise for a head coach down the line. So I think he stays.
Peter says we need to protect the loss of Tanner Eggstrand. Yeah, he's the next OC, I believe, unless Ben takes him, but he should be next up in line. IB3 says, it's my birthday today. Can I get a shout out? Love the show. Listen and watch every day. Go Lions. IB3, happy birthday, brother. Appreciate you for joining the show, man. Hope you have a good day.
Did you see what they said on McAfee's show yesterday, too?
No.
So, and I'll pull it up real quick, because I was going to use it for 9:40, but it's actually just perfect time. He said that Aaron Glenn is also probably going to get a lot of calls this offseason. So when you guys see that, he says Brian Johnson, I can't think of who Brian Johnson is the OC of right now. I think maybe
Eagles.
The Eagles. So he said Ben Johnson and Brian Johnson going to get a lot of calls, but he also said Dan Quinn, who I think should have been a head coach last year. He's probably a better coach than Mike McCarthy in Dallas right now, but that's besides the point. Him and Aaron Glenn will both be getting calls as well. So when you hear that Aaron Glenn could be getting calls, what do you think of that?
I don't hate it. I think Aaron Glenn possesses some of those qualities you look for in a head coach, like leadership, and I get all that. We'll see. I don't know with Aaron Glenn. I can see it. I just think, sometimes they do. We'll see. I just think they do Aaron Glenn dirty, if I'm being real. If I'm going to keep it 100. I think they just use him for an interview and they get him out of there. Like, it's actually disrespectful. It's the Rooney Rule thing. Like, I don't see him getting a job. But I think he possesses a lot of qualities to earn a job. Mm-hmm. Like, I think he could be the like a CEO type of guy. Like a Sean McDermott's had somewhat of success, and although he's going to get fired probably this year, I could see Aaron Glenn assembling a pretty good staff. I could see all that. It's not the route I'd go. I'm always for young, innovative offensive coordinators, but hey, I can see it. But yeah, if I'm keeping it honest with you, it's all BS to get that man an interview. That's how I feel. But regardless, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll play pretenders versus contenders. We'll go through AFC teams, NFC teams, and we'll say a pretender or contender. We're going to keep it 100 today, and the Lions are on that list. So see where we go with that. We'll see if Matt Broder wants to stick around. You could help us decide if they're contenders or pretenders, or he has to get out of here because he's a busy man. Regardless, let's go to break here. First, though, we got to hear about our friends from Guardian Alarm.
Guardian Alarm. All right. Shoot,